much. I'll come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
All right. Hey, I love that song. Lead vocals on that surprisingly is John Hartwell.
He's good. He's the lead singer.
He's the lead singer on
Yeah.
that. I like that. Hey, Rob Browne from 23 Degrees in Memphis. Man, the kids now, Brenden, I bet you love this. Day 9 of no school. They've been out for 9 straight days.
Oh, you're gonna have to make it up.
Well, I found this out. They build in 10 days to the calendar. After that,
I know
they got to make it up, and so they're on day 9, and they're not going tomorrow. We're told, and then Monday is the President's Day holiday. Look, if you got kids at home, share it, like it, subscribe. Sidelines. We're on 8 channels, 8 platforms, live streaming Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And Brenden is putting it out everywhere, and a lot of reels too. Do it every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 a.m. Central. So look, tune in. Got a great one today. John Hartwell, College Sports Solutions, joins us. Longtime athletic director. He understands the business, the money side of college athletics, which is everything, to be honest with you, which I always am. And Coach John Brady will check in with us. Google Chrome and airplane mode, he said. Hoorah! And then Gary Harris in the second half hour, sports director, WVUA Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa. Look, lot to cover today. We're going to bounce around all 16 schools. John, great job on the lead vocals there on that song. I mean, you were hiding from me that night at the in Little Rock a couple of months ago in the karaoke when that one guy sounded like an injured animal, but you did a great job. And look who it is right now.
Hey, if y'all had to count on my singing to draw a crowd, people would be running out of the show.
Yeah,
you would be in trouble.
Whatever, dude. You got some pipes. I know it. I heard it. You're in the garage all the time warming up.
That's right. And Coach John Brady joins us. Coach, looking great. Man, SEC basketball last night. I'm watching SEC Network, guys. Bucky McMillan takes that road show to Tuscaloosa, and 100-97, Alabama wins. And John, if you can hear us, Bucky's got something really good going there. They're playing, I think, 5 of their next 9 games are at home. Start with you, Coach, and then to John on these SEC basketball race right now. 14 teams made it last year. I like to do this every week. Get the temperature, Coach, of the SEC, and then John, and we'll take it from there.
Well, the NCAA, I think there are 9 teams in for sure, possibly 10. I don't think there'll be 14. Simply because some of the records in the league against top 25 teams, isn't real good when you go across the board. But that game last night, Bucky McMillan, one thing I like about coaches, what they say how they're going to play, and they're committed to a style of play. And Bucky has really incorporated that in a short period of time with the players that he was able to get in the portal when he got there somewhat late. And I think he's hands down the favorite for SEC Coach of the Year right now. I don't think there's anybody else that's done a better job of coaching, considering where they are now and where they were picked at the beginning of the year. And it's difficult now to predict who's going to finish where based on the transfer portal, and everybody has 8 to 10 new players every year. So it's a little difficult to predict who's good and who isn't. But Bucky's done a great job, and I liked Alabama fouling up 3 in that situation. They almost tied it up because the ball got batted around on that second attempt. But Bucky's Coach of the Year in the SEC right now, and as you said, that's what I heard him talk about last night. He's got 5 of the next 9 at home. Certainly, they have every game they play is a big game in order to win it. But they're in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
I don't question Bucky McMillan.
John Hartwell, 79 3-pointers put up last night in Tuscaloosa between Texas A&M and Alabama. That's one of the highest numbers we've ever seen. Your takeaways from that and other SEC action last night?
Yeah, I want to echo what Coach Brady said about Bucky McMillan's style and being committed to it. It hadn't changed from when he was a high school coach in Birmingham to Samford to Texas A&M. People know what they're facing, and he still has a way, with his mass substitutions, what he's doing, hats off to him, because I know there are people who said, hey, is this really going to work in the SEC? All you got to do is look at the standings, and they sit atop. I know they lost a close one in Tuscaloosa last night, and I didn't get to watch much of the game. We're in the process of moving right now, so I didn't get to watch the game. But I have a feeling that Bucky had quite a few of his cronies from Birmingham drive down to Tuscaloosa for the game. So I know it was a heck of an atmosphere. One of the things that intrigues me, and I'll be interested to hear Coach Brady's take on this, if you look at the current AP top 25, and I know, there's a lot of games left to play, the whole month of February, early March, then we get into conference tournament time. But the highest ranked SEC team right now, I believe, is Vandy, sitting at 15. So 1 through 14 are from other leagues. John, would you say this is talking, is this balance in the SEC? Is it maybe it's not as strong top to bottom as it was last year? What are your thoughts on that?
Coach? And I think that's a great question. I think Coach is frozen. But John, I think that was a great question. Nobody's talking about it. Florida's 17, and they may be the best team in the league. The defending national champion. But Coach is right. Those early season matchups, SEC against other big time, highly ranked teams, it didn't work out well at all for the SEC. And as the conference, here we are going into the second half of the 18-game schedule. I don't know, in your opinion, Texas A&M looks to be the best, but Coach Brady, you heard that question from John Hartwell about the highest ranked team in the SEC is 15th ranked Vandy. Is that a sign of balance or what?
Well, I think, Texas A&M is leading the league, and they're not ranked. Where they're tied, I guess, at 7-2 with Florida. But, Texas A&M's schedule doesn't justify where they are. Actually, they're 0-1 against top 25. It's the only one they've played to this point. In Florida in second place, they're 4-3 against top 25. So their strength of schedule is better. And I think that's what's hurting A&M from a national standpoint. But certainly they have played. What is this graphic that's on my phone here? Oh, well, I don't know what that is. But certainly they played well. But I think overall the SEC is not as strong as it was a year ago, and I think there's a lot of teams bundled up. The two leading teams are 7-2, then Kentucky 7-3, then we got Vandy at 6-3, Tennessee 6-3, Arkansas 6-3, Missouri 5-4. So I don't think the SEC has a team that possibly could go the Final Four. Maybe Florida because of the way it's built and put together. But I think the SEC is good. I don't think it's a great league, and I think we have some really good teams. But I don't know if we have the quality of teams that we did a year ago.
You're muted, Rob. You had the matchup last February, number 1 Auburn, number 2 Alabama. There's nothing even close to that what we've seen this year. John Hartwell, looking around the country, and Brenden just put up the top 25. There's Arizona. They're always there. Gonzaga, the Jesuits, doing it out there in Tacoma, where they are. And by the way, I saw something on The Athletic about the new TV deal with what is left of the Pac-12. You know that part of the country really well. You spent 7.5 of the best years of your life, your kids and you out in Logan, Utah. Don't you miss the winters in Logan, Utah, John Hartwell?
Hell no. Hell no. Give me kudzu and humidity all day long.
That's right. And fried catfish. I bet they don't have that out there. But John Hartwell, Coach Brady's right. You have to think about this. The top team in the SEC isn't even ranked. What other conference, at least Power Four, can say that?
Yeah, you talk about Arizona and Gonzaga, and the folks dialed into basketball know this. A lot of folks in the Southeast probably don't. But Tommy Lloyd, the head coach at Arizona, was a longtime Mark Few assistant. In fact, I tried to hire Tommy at Utah State, about 8 or 9 years ago. Interviewed him at the NCAA tournament in Boise that they were playing in. And at that time, he just said, hey, he goes, I want to be a head coach one day. And Utah State's a great place, great basketball reputation. He said, I just need to sit around. And at that time, Mark Few was looking at potentially retiring. He didn't know the timeline on that. But I'll say this, the formula for those guys, Gonzaga, Arizona now with Tommy, their formula in going to Europe to get skilled 6'8", 6'9" guys who can play positions 1 through 5, they were kind of on the cutting edge of that. Obviously, some people have caught up to that. But if you look at their styles of play, they give people fits. I would argue that they probably aren't as athletic in those teams as maybe some of the SEC is, or even the Big Ten. But basketball skill wise, they're off the charts because they have so many of the European kids.
Yeah, Coach Brady, last week, Gary Harris, who comes on the second half hour with us on Thursdays, pointed out, obviously, Mr. Bediako is a little older than the average player. Of course, not that much in today's world, but then you look at Auburn's got a guy that spent 3 or 4 years playing in Croatia or Serbia, and a lot of these guys from the European leagues come over here. Now, yesterday's show, we had a good panel, Ron Higgins and Dudley Dawson talking. So, and Ron pointed out, well, yeah, these guys are going to college in universities and playing in those summer leagues in Europe before they come over here. Can you help? Both of y'all have forgotten more about this than I know, but kind of break that down for us, because I know Dale Browne went over to Germany and found a big guy that, Shaq, but he was an American living over there. But kind of talk about how they make that transition to come over here. And is there anything similar to that in Charles Bediako?
Well, I think that the counter argument, and I saw a lawsuit where the Bediako, whatever his name is, was to justify him being able to play on the collegiate level, is these European young guys that are playing also, they're getting paid not as much, as college players are making here. That's why they give up their paycheck to come over here and play. There are no rules or no pushback on European players that are professional, even though they're 18 and 19 years old. And so I think that the reasoning is, if we can pay European players to come over here that are already professional, young professionals over there, why can't we pay some guys who've been in the NBA or G League or whatever it is to come back and play as well? I think there's some logic to that, and I see where they're going with it. But it does open up a whole new can here for college athletics, particularly basketball, to deal with. I mean, it's I think the NCAA, they've lost some of their strength actually because of the lawsuits, the number of lawsuits. The leadership there was not visionary enough to see what may come out of this. Had we made some nice decisions along the way and given in to paying some of the players who have actually earned a reputation and let them earn some money, I don't think it would ever come to this. But now we have it. But and John Hartwell may know this more than I do. If European players are getting paid to play at 18 and 19, they're professionals over there. Why can't we pay professionals here that want to come back and finish a college degree if they have eligibility or whatever the case may be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Here's the thing. I think it's a little, well, I know, because it's been going on for years. I know it's tougher to track foreign, offshore currency, if you will. And so getting true answers and true amounts and all of those things out of some of the European and Asian players that have contracts is really tough. And because some of those things have come to light of late in the last 3 to 5 years, I think it becomes even tougher. So again, money thrown at the situation is causing some challenges. Hey, I'd like to throw this one out there too, and let's take a couple of schools that we know a lot about. Obviously, John does radio for LSU, but I think a dynamic that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but I think you're going to see it talked about even more. Let's just take LSU and Ole Miss as two schools, both towards the bottom end of the standings in basketball. And there can be all kinds of theories on why that is. But if you're the coaching staff at either one of those places and you see very publicly the amount of money that is just being shoveled in to the football roster. And I know both of those schools have increased what their basketball amounts are, but not to the extent of maybe in Arizona or Gonzaga or some other places who, again, give more emphasis to basketball. And so a larger piece of the pie, whether it's revenue sharing or what they go out and solicit in the collective or corporate sponsorships, all of those things play into it. But, if you're Chris Beard, you're probably saying, hey, we've just gone through a shuffle of coaches. We've got crazy money, $35-40 million out there in NIL and collective, and rev share and collective money going to Ole Miss football. Hey, where's my share? And again, I'm not saying they haven't gotten some, but proportionally has theirs grown like football. And I think you probably got the same case at LSU. So it'll be interesting. That dynamic, especially is some of the doubters here over the next 4 to 6 weeks and people talking about hot seats or coaches changing jobs. That is a significant factor playing into that.
I want to throw something in too. I was watching on the color TV last night through the neighbor's window because cable's pretty damn expensive. No, I was watching on SEC.
I hope that's all you were doing was watching the TV.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I'm watching SEC Network last night. Story comes out about Trinidad Chambliss, NCAA objecting to him coming back to college. And again, Brenden, and he does it every time on cue, we bring up the travels, the curious life of Benjamin Button and TJ Finley. 7 schools in 7 years for Mr. Finley, I think from Opelousas, Louisiana. Y'all both know where Opelousas is. And they're saying the doctor up in Michigan that treated Trinidad, an otolaryngologist, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, I believe, saying that he couldn't play. And that what they compared it to is the quarterback who was the 34th pick in the draft. His 4-year deal is $2.7 million a season. And they're saying if Trinidad comes back to Ole Miss, his NIL deal is worth in excess of $5 million. That's where we are. And you watch what happens with Tom Mars, the attorney. There it is, out of Little Rock. Tom Mars. There's 2 attorneys that you don't want to go up against, at least in the South. Tom Mars out of Little Rock. He's the guy that made the transfer portal the law of the land October 15th of 2018. Jackie Sherrill told me about him on this show. Thank you, Coach. The other one is in Oxford, Steve Faris. That's one of the greatest attorneys that you'll ever see. They're going to be an injunction, I think in Calhoun County, Mississippi, February 12th. They've already filed it. Now, the judge in that one is going to be like the Dukes of Hazzard. Well, he's going to come in there and under his robe, he's got on his hottie tie. I'm kidding. But they should get a favorable deal. It's like Coach Dye said, He said, we were playing Florida State one time in Tallahassee, and the referees always get dressed in the visiting team's locker room. And I'm in there, and old Jimmy Skelton's in there, and he's putting on his garnet and gold socks. And I say, we going to have a chance tonight? So, but he was having fun with that, of course. But Auburn won that game 42-41, by the way. 42-41. But Coach Brady, when Gary Harris brought it up last week about what you said, you've got these European players coming over, and everybody's trying to criticize Judge Roberts, the judge in Tuscaloosa. He was picked by a computer to randomly select this. He's not an Alabama grad. He went to the University of South Florida, went to law school at Cumberland over on Lakeshore Drive. You know that well.
Absolutely.
He's a good man. And he's recused himself from it. But both of y'all, folks, listen, take notes about the European players. Did you recruit any yourself that were 23 or 25, whatever? And could we buy a vowel for their name for $50?
No, we never got involved with that. I think we did one time. A lot of paperwork, a lot of other stuff you have to go through to back then to make that happen. So we didn't really do a lot of that. We put all our resources kind of in Louisiana and then went out from there, But here's what I would like. I hear all the time, this guy's getting that much money. They're paying this much money. John may have more. He may know what Ole Miss is giving in football, But I hear all these rumors and innuendo, and I hear coaches say, "Well, we can't pay what they're paying," so they make a built-in excuse for not winning. If you have an attitude, well, I don't have the money they have, so we can't win. You're limiting yourself on the possibilities of what you might can be. And my response to something like that would be, well, be a good steward of the money you have, and let's see what we can make out of that. And then if you do well with what you have, then we'll give you more. I don't know how that works, but certainly I've heard assistant coaches just say, well, we can't do what they're doing. We don't have that kind of money. Well, then then LSU can never go, not per se, but LSU can never go to a Final Four again. They can never get to an Elite Eight because we don't have the money those schools have. I don't totally buy that. That's why I wish every school should be required to make public what they're paying each sport, what each player is getting from that school. So there's no innuendo and no doubt about what we need to do to get this player from that school because we know what he's making. You get some of these cats you're dealing with, they'll tell you a figure that's not even true, and you don't really know how to counter or what you're supposed to do. So there's a lot of money on some benches in the SEC that they're giving guys who can't play. And you make mistakes like that with that kind of money, and it'll cost you your job pretty quick. That's why I think it should be exposed so all these coaches will know who's getting what at what school and what school everybody, how much money each guy is getting out of their collective or out of the revenue sharing situation.
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, you watch CNBC, Fox Business, if an analyst is on there talking about a company, he's got to make it fully public disclosure that he owns shares of stock in that particular company that he's talking about. Because I'm not going to mention names, but there used to be some real grease balls that used to be front runners that were in USA Today that would basically push stocks. I mean, that's just what goes on. Full disclosure, every dollar that is spent, John Hartwell, you know this, and Coach Brady, I know in the financial services industry, you cannot give a gift to a client worth more than $100. And you better watch it because your compliance people are looking at that. Every dollar I spend in anything that I do, I'm fully accountable to it as a steward, to my clients, to an investor or whoever. It's just, hey, where's it going? That's all we need to know. And these hustlers and they're pimps is what they are. They're coming in and they're playing games with you. John Hartwell, you are uniquely qualified, CPA, Citadel grad. I love what Coach Brady just said. I would love for you not to be on a committee, not to be the czar, but to be the king of all this stuff.
First off, I don't care if somebody's if somebody's Superman, That's not a one-person job. But there's so many components. Once upon a time when folks thought this was going to be a glass bubble, oh, hey, we can do NIL and we can have everybody report everything, and we're going to know exactly what this is, and it's going to be reported. Well, it's just like fashion and everything else. Things come full circle again. I was on a webinar yesterday with Chris Kleiman, who was the head football coach at Kansas State, stepped down, dealing with a lot of this stuff. We were talking about the roles of GMs or chief of staff, or how big people's staff is that, basically is dealing with the salary cap and roster management and all that. And the point was brought up. It's great because even if you said, okay, here is our $20.5 million in rev share, and from A to Z, from volleyball to softball, here's what everybody's getting. That's only a piece of the puzzle right there. You got collectives giving money that you may or may not have all the information on. You've got the Learfields or the JMIs or the Playfly, whoever the third party sponsorship rights, radio rights has. There's some deals running through there. And I tell you what, this has really created again, because and it's not within the university now, but it's within the collectives. The power brokers in the collectives, and the golden rule still applies. Those who have the gold rule, the primary 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 donors who are the top level donors in that collective, we are all kidding ourselves if you think those donors don't have direct access and direct communication with the players on a regular basis. So who knows what's happening there? So I totally agree with John. It would be great if everybody had to lay their cards on the table and say, hey, here's what I got. But I don't know. The cat's too far out of the bag. And I don't even know, that's what Chris Kleiman said yesterday when we were talking, said, hey, at least in the NFL or the NBA, you got a salary cap. Hell, there's no salary cap in college athletics right now. You may have a cap on the rev share, but these peripheral sources of dollars, you don't have any accountability on those.
Yeah. And
but with the revenue sharing, most schools are going, in the SEC, from my understanding, is they're going to split it in a fair way, or in a consistent way. I think, football gets 14 million out of the 22, give or take, of whatever it is. And then you have a collective that raises money above that. And if there's no limit on that, I assume that you can raise outside of what the revenue sharing is from the university. But if you pay a player, don't you have now to go before a committee to see if that player is worthy of the money that you're offering him? Is that close?
Yeah, that is the CSC, which is basically the governing entity for deals outside of rev share or the collective deals or anything with corporate sponsorships. All of those deals are supposed to run through the CSC, and they do have a team of folks who say, okay, John Brady is going to go turn on the lights at the Chevrolet dealership every morning at 6:30, and we're going to pay him $3 million to do that. They may come back.
Sign me up.
They may take the BS stamp and say, no, that's not going to fly. We can only pay him 1.5 million because he is, overexerting himself to get out of bed at 4:45 a.m. and go do that. So there is such a thing as that. It's just a question: is everything truly flowing through that? But there is a mechanism set there. But for every mechanism that's set there, some things never change. The same way 20, 30 years ago, for every mechanism there is set up, there's somebody on that staff or somebody in the coach's ear saying, hey, you got that, but here's a way to get around it.
Yeah. Here's a question, Coach. Are we going to have schools like Gonzaga and Villanova and one of the Xaviers that are just basketball schools only that get the 21.5 million, and it all goes to basketball because they don't even have a football team?
UConn, they're in that same boat.
Yeah.
I would. That's up to the AD. He can decide what he wants to do. From my understanding, he can distribute that type of revenue sharing however he feels. And I'm sure at UConn, the old women's basketball coach gonna want some of that pie too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gino's not going to sit back and say, "I'll
No.
just take what comes to me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Well,
But you make a great point, Rob, because I mean, schools, whether it's at the Power 4 level, Group of 6, wherever right now, there are schools that are tiering their programs. They're saying, okay, out of 16, 17 sports, here are the sports that we're going to identify as tier 1. We're going to try to do everything that we can for these sports. And, I'll just use the Sun Belt as an example. Baseball and softball are really important within the Sun Belt. So there's a lot of schools in the Sun Belt that are, making sure that there are resources allocated from a rev share standpoint to fund baseball and softball. But you may have a couple of schools on the flip side, and one of John's old schools is exactly that way. Arkansas State, although they have invested recently in baseball some, Arkansas State has a traditionally strong track and field program. Well, a lot of people are pushing track and field down to their third tier, but Arkansas State and a couple others, hey, that's one of our bread and butter sport, or I shouldn't say one, that's 6 of our bread and butter sports. So if you take indoor track and field, both men and women, outdoor track and field, men and women, and cross country, men and women, I mean, that's 6 of your, 17, 18 sports there. So it, it differs from institution to institution, but there are some leagues that are having collective discussions and say, hey, here's what we're going to identify. They're not broadcasting this out there, but there are significant discussions to say, hey, here's what we're going to tier our sports as.
Yeah.
Is that a requirement to when they decide how they're going to disperse the revenue sharing dollars? Is that going to be a public situation where everybody knows what each school is giving each sport out of that particular money?
That's been debated too, and it again, they're dollars going through, an institution. It's supposed to be, but folks have tried to be pretty close to the vest to it because again, track and field probably being at least in the Sun Belt Conference, track and field being on the short end of this deal. There are a lot of places, especially on the men's side, because you got the whole Title IX and gender equity deal. Men's track and field, if you had a son who's a high jumper or distance runner or something, I'd say, hey, son, you may want to concentrate on something else, because I do think over the next 5 years or so, you're going to see some of the scholarship opportunities in some of these Olympic sports, especially on the men's side, be lessened.
Well, I mean, that would be terrible because I think track and field is everybody used to do it. It's your insurance policy for every sport you play. Herschel, Bo, Marcus Dupree, they were big. Gary Harris, sports director, Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa. You do a great show every day right after my show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. Talking with Coach John Brady and John Hartwell today. Matt Dean is out. His mother passed away, and keep him in your prayers.
Sorry.
Love him. He's up in Iowa. But Gary, you made a point last week, and I told you this. You're so damn good because you make people get out of their comfort zone when it comes to thinking. And you said you can criticize Charles Bediako all you want, but look around the league at these European players. And you referenced Auburn, not out of spite, just that's an easy one right there. And I know you. You're cool. But let's talk about this. What's happening? And by the way, big win last night. I know you were there in Tuscaloosa. 100-97, 79 3-pointers. Let's roll.
Yeah, first on the game last night, it was about what we expected, and A&M had a shot there. Rylan Griffin, former Alabama player, had a shot to force overtime. They did a great job of missing the free throw. I'm amazed at how these free throws now get batted out there. You'd think somebody would get their hands on it and grab it, but kicked right to him, and he had an open look that would have tied it and sent it into overtime. I thought Bucky did a great job. I thought their team, seeing them, how hard they play, and people talk about 94 feet. I mean, that's what they do defensively, offensively. They press you on makes and misses, and I thought they had a great game plan. I thought Alabama, made enough plays down the stretch. I still thought the last minute management by Nate Oates was a little questionable, but they got away with a win. Huge win, game they had to have. As far as the Bediako deal, it's just like I said last week. I don't know how Coach feels about it. I know John and I think got to agree on it. I wish that none of this was happening. I wish that, and I know it can't be exactly like it was, but I wish college basketball and football were still under rules and we had structure, and the NCAA had a little bit of say-so on it. And I wish college sports were being played by college age kids, and that it was, the way it was designed to be. Like I've told you before, Rob, I don't think college sports is designed to have guys 26, 27, 28 years old playing 6, 7, 8 years of college sports. I just don't think that's what it was meant to be. Having said that, as I've said, as you know, since I've been on your show, the minute that this genie was out of the bottle, this is where this was headed. And I still am amazed at the number of people who act like they're surprised by what's gone on. Coaches want to win. Schools want to win. You give them an opportunity to get more players and have an opening like this. Some are going to take advantage of it. And that's going to force everybody to do it. So now it's a free-for-all. It's a free-for-all. And, I've been predicting for some time that there's going to be a former NBA player or a former NFL player that comes back to college or tries. And I think we're at that point now. As far as Bediako is concerned, in a perfect world, he shouldn't be playing college basketball. He left after 2 years. I thought that was a questionable decision to do that. He kicked around in the G League for 2.5 years, and now he comes back and plays college basketball. I don't think that's the way it should be designed, but I don't blame Nate Oates for taking advantage of it because he's trying to win games. And, if you don't win games, you lose your job. So it's kind of a catch-22 the way I see it. But the system is the system, and I don't see it going back to being what it was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just going to be wild if somebody like a Walker Kessler gets cut in the NBA and, well, I've got 2 years left. I'm coming back to North Carolina or Auburn, whatever. But you make your case, Coach Brady, kind of dovetail off of what Gary just said. Agree or disagree?
Well, I agree. I agree with that in what he's talking about, and I see coaches want to do that. But here's where we are with this, to me. And I'm not a holier than thou sort of guy, but the integrity on the path to winning means nothing. Nowadays, how you win, that's it. How you win, it doesn't matter anymore. So the end doesn't justify it. Whatever you want to do to get there, winning is it. And you get paid, and it's all about money from the college level through the pro level. And I think that's changed a lot of it to make it more cutthroat. But I get the path to win doesn't matter anymore, and the integrity, some integrity has lost to me in what college athletics is supposed to be about. I agree with your point, and we talked about European players getting paid over there to play at whatever level. It's not as much as they make here, but the concept of why can't you pay a guy to come play for you? I get all that. But it's the way it is. To manage that as a college coach, to manage all of that, they earn every dime they get these days, because that is a mess to manage that and have to start over every year. LSU, for instance, we got 9 players that are done this year. That's it. You got to go get 9 or 10 more next year. And that is a management issue. And then you throw money out there to decide who gets what. And how much money do you have compared to your competitors? It's a lot for a head coach at that major level to manage. And if a guy can do all of that plus win 20 or 24 games a year, that guy, he's a special coach, because there's not a lot of guys going to be able to sustain that type of winning at that level.
Yeah.
Hey, John, a question for you from a coaching perspective, because I don't think, just the everyday fan understands this. Obviously, team chemistry and team building, all of those things have always been a significant piece to success.
Right.
But like you talk about, when you've got, not just a 50% roster turnover, but a 75, 80% roster turnover, and trying to get everybody pulling on the same end of the rope on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how important that is. And it's not so much about X's and O's and player development. And I think back to the NBA, to guys like Phil Jackson or Pat Riley, some guys like that who were more philosophers really than ball coaches. How do you see that, the importance of that going forward?
That's a good point. And I said this when this transfer portal opened and the flipping of teams every year and the number of players you have to bring in. I've always said the head coaches who can put together a team that has care and concern for each other and accepts accountability. The coach that can do that in the shortest period of time, because you bring them in the spring, you got 4 or 5 months to make a team and create all the intangibles that go into a talented team. And a coach that can do that, team building is important. And you have to do that now almost every year, because not many teams have a lot of returning players anymore. And there's no loyalty really to any school because of the money. But I think that the coach that can put together a team has a personality that understands that, gets outside people to come in and whatever continuity they create to make that team, build those intangibles that you can see in championship teams when they play. And Bucky's done a nice job of that. I said before, he's my favorite for SEC Coach of the Year, hands down, considering where they were picked and what they're doing now. Bucky's got a flair for that, and I think coaches that don't aren't going to be able to keep up with the coaches that have that ability to build teams, championship teams, provided the talent is there in the shortest period of time.
John, great point. Gary, you were at that game last night. Did you get a chance to talk to Bucky McMillan about his first half of the 18-game schedule in the SEC, his thoughts?
I didn't, because again, we had a newscast and I was squeezed for time. Got
Are you
over there
still
for a
news
little bit.
anchoring as well?
No, I'm back on sports.
Oh,
I'm back
okay.
on
All
sports, but I want to piggyback on what Coach said, because I agree 100%. And again, I'm no coach.
So do I.
Next game I coach will be my first one, but I've been around them all my life and watched a lot of games.
Me too.
But
I apologize for that.
no, the truth. The truth is, though, I do think the coaches that embrace this system and recognize that you're going to roll your roster over every year. And I think the coach's point about Bucky doing a great job in his first year, and I think Nate Oates is good at that too. I think Coach Oates just understands that's the way it's done now. And every year you're rebuilding your roster. Now, their portal losses versus what they got back in the portal this year, I think you could say Alabama lost out. I mean, they're not getting near the production from the players they brought in based on the players they lost. Reed at Oklahoma, Diabate at Kentucky, and Stevenson at North Carolina are playing a lot better than the guys Alabama's brought in. But still, he doesn't have a problem understanding, hey, this is a year-to-year endeavor. Every year you're looking at building a new roster, and you just have to understand that and accept that. And I do think it's harder, from what I've seen, for coaches to build that oneness. And I think this is happening too at schools. I think there are players that are playing well that their handlers, agents, friends of the family, whatever you call them, are going to coaches and saying, hey, man, we need a bonus or we need a raise right in the middle of the season. And I think sometimes when you see guys sitting on the bench not playing, they're not, maybe they're hurt, maybe they're not. I think there's a lot of stuff going on with these coaches having to deal with these players.
Oh, listen, I love that magnet on the refrigerator I've got. I don't need your attitude. I've got my own. You roll your eyes. It's bad enough when people whine and complain about what they have to do. It makes shut up. Okay. I just that's Gary, you're right. When the guys are sitting on the bench with the pout face, they're a cancer to everybody around them. John Hartwell, you're an AD. You've been for a long time now. You're College Sports Solutions, soon to be living back in Fairhope, Alabama, in God's country. Not that Louisiana's not, but Fairhope, you're from Mobile. But golly, man, could you, if I was a coach and I found out a guy was sitting on the bench and he wasn't hurt and he had some agent in his ear, he would never be on he would be gone. I might have 6 players to play with, but I would not put up with that. I'm not old school. I'm the right school. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. But I'd also say if you're a coach in today's world, you're naive as hell if you don't think every player doesn't have somebody in their ear, or the vast majority of them has somebody in their ear about it. It's just the way things are now. And you're right. It's, here's something Gary, I was telling these guys earlier, I did this webinar yesterday with Chris Kleiman, who stepped down as the head football coach at Kansas State a couple of months ago. And we were talking, and here's a term that was such a buzzword, and rightfully so, needs to continue to be a buzzword, but you don't hear about this much anymore. Student athlete welfare. Remember, for about a 3 or 4 year period, student athlete welfare was the buzzword, and needed to be, whether it was mental health or how people were being treated, all that stuff. That has been replaced by the almighty dollar, because it's not about, we need to take care of Johnny or Jill, and we need to help them through these tough times. Hopefully that's still going on at places, but that's not what you're hearing about publicly. You're hearing about dollars and cents, and that's part of, again, that's something a coach has to manage, that's on their bench. And hey, is this kid laying out because he's jockeying for more money? Is he laying out because he doesn't want to risk burning a year and wants to have this year back and get a red shirt deal and go get a better deal somewhere? Again, it's a tough situation for coaches, but I'd almost rather see a coach say, hey, can we just, we're going to keep you on scholarship through the end of the year, but hey, go hang out at the frat house or whatever, because you're a cancer to our team.
Yep. Well,
Can I piggyback on that real quick, Rob?
Yeah.
And Coach will be interested in this too. I think because of what John just said, the traditional recruiting model's done. Infrastructure, facilities, and that's why I think extending these coaches is great for the coaches. But these kids don't care how long the coach's contract is anymore. The coach leaves, I'll leave. And I think athletic departments are putting themselves in binds with all these extensions and these outrageous contracts that they're giving these coaches, when I don't think players are that concerned about it anymore. Players, as John said, for the most part, not all of them, aren't asking, what are your academic programs? How are you going to prepare me for life after basketball or football? They're asking, how much money can you pay me to come play at your school? That's what it's at. And so all the things in the past that you use to recruit athletes, with academics and nutrition and all the aids that you can give them for helping their sleep and all these things that you would talk to the parents about, I don't think matter anymore. And I think that's why Nate Oates, when asked about getting a new facility for Coleman, I think, told Browne, hey, listen, let's put money into a training facility where they're going to be spending all their time. We can play in Coleman. We'll take that money that we were going to spend there and put it toward NIL, because NIL, if you don't have the NIL, if you're middle of the pack NIL, it's going to be hard to be top of the conference. So I just think it's all about the money now, and the traditional recruiting model is just out the window.
Yeah. And it's tough. I mean, I think about lessons that we all learned. I think about all the kids in Memphis are on day 9 of no school. When I was at Christian Brothers High School with the Christian Brothers at 5900 Walnut Grove, let me tell you something. If Brother Adrian saw one vehicle moving on Interstate 240 at Walnut Grove, they would say all Memphis area schools, city, county, are closed except for Christian Brothers High School. I kid you not. We had carpool my freshman year, and the guy that was driving for one of our people, the van could not get up the hill, and we were like 7 minutes late. They didn't care. The next time we got out at that same place, and we humped it on foot with our backpacks and got there on time because we had to clean the parking lot because we were late. They didn't care. I'm so glad I was raised with those values. I also want to say, I love this guy, One Stone Angel, y'all. He watches every day. He is going through cancer treatment right now. I think at University of Arkansas Medical School in Little Rock. A lot of times he comes on this show or at night and just says so thank you, people that watch this. And I'm glad I've got the most honest truth brokers around and the best executive producer on the planet. There he is, One Stone Angel. Gary, you nailed it. Please don't ever retire from Tuscaloosa, from TV. You're too young. Go till you're 100, okay? This is a great panel about what's going on. That traditional model, Coach Brady, how would you recruit in today's world? I would not want to get crossways with you.
Here's what I think. I think the player needs to be sold on where he get a plan about where's he want to go. He wants to go to the NBA. Okay, well, let's map out a plan of how you get there. Yeah. And then the player every day has to be conscious about creating value for himself where he is. How do you create value for yourself? Do you don't go to class, you be disrespectful, you don't practice hard, you don't play hard, you don't do what you're supposed to do, you don't hold yourself accountable. No, that's not creating value for yourself. To create value for yourself, you do what's necessary to make your situation better and your team better. Go to class, be a good student, do what the coach tells you, give 100% every day, encourage your teammates, be a good teammate. To get to the next level, that's the path you need to go in. And I think if I was coaching today, I would spend more time individually with every player to relieve some of the anxiety he creates within himself, because everybody tells him how good he is, but there's obstacles in the way, and sometimes he can't handle that or doesn't understand that because you're paying him a bunch of money. Everybody's telling him how good he is, and then the coach tries to hold him accountable for the things that are necessary. I think that's why the coach needs to spend more time individually with certain players to create a path of where they want to go, how they want to get there, and then meet with them 2 or 3 times a week to relieve the anxiety and hear it from the coach, and they be on the same page because they're hearing a lot of other stuff from different people. So I would do more of that if I was coaching today, to just really, you can't play with anxiety. You can't perform with high anxiety. Relationships, anxiety needs to be removed. And I think the way you do that is spend time and hear what he has to say. Then you say what you need to say, and y'all get on the same page, and then move forward with the attitude of that player creating value for himself where he is to get to where he wants.
Yeah. Great advice. I mean, it's the anxiety. By the way, Kelly Lee, Rob, you were in school when they served whole milk. Well, we all were. And look how we turned out. I love this guy,
That's
Kelly.
why I'm on Lipitor today. I don't.
Holy
the whole key when we were in school was trying to figure out a way to get that second milk. I'll trade you my applesauce for milk.
Hey, Rob, I tell you another thing, because Coach Brady makes a great point there. I'll never forget, and I've heard multiple coaches say this. John, I'm sure, has heard this. Hey, as a player, your job is to work to get better so that whoever coach goes and recruits doesn't beat you out of your position or beat you out of a starting job next year. As a coach, your job is to, hey, I need to go recruit a player that's better than he or she is. Yeah. But in today's world, where you're not necessarily just using the high school pipeline or primarily high school with a JUCO kid or two, it's a totally different world, because you're recruiting, and Indiana's a prime example. You're recruiting maturity of guys, and so it's a totally and that's another dynamic. John talks about spending individual time with kids. You got to do that, because the system that we've developed now, I'm not sure, and I don't want to get on my soapbox, but I'm not sure from a society standpoint that it's setting a good example, because, I can remember my dad saying adversity builds character. Yeah. If I bitched about playing time, my dad said, hey, that's on you. If I bitched about a coach, that's on you. You got to work harder. You got to want it more. And in today's world of the transfer portal, hey, if the stars aren't aligned or I don't have enough money in my pocket, boom, I'm going to hit that button. And it, I hope that does not create societal issues 10, 15, 20 years down
Well,
the
it's
road.
going to.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about this one? You get all this money on the front end. We grew up thinking, you work and you build, and as you go, and hopefully by the time you're in your 30s, 40s, whatever, you start, reaping the rewards of your work. Now you get these young people to get all this money on the front end. They don't make it in the NBA or the NFL, and they're 25 years old. Yeah, maybe they've taken care of their money, maybe they haven't. How in the world are they going to get excited about a $75,000 a year job? How are they going to get excited about entering society as a normal person when they don't even have a concept of how it's supposed to work? I worry about that.
Gary, that's the next class action suit against the NCAA because the system has wronged them. You're going to get a bunch of folks who say, hey, I'm 28 years old and I can't play my 9th year in college anymore. And guess what? I had room, board, housing, school paid for, $200,000 in my pocket. And I got to get to the real world, and that's not happening anymore. I've been wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, I see Barry Sanderson getting up in there, so I better get on.
All right, Gary, great stuff.
I'm a victim.
Great stuff, as always.
All right, thanks, guys. Thank you. Good to see you, Coach.
Thank you, Gary.
Hey, John.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
we about to wrap up. We got about a minute and a half left, but I love what was said today. We're not get off of my lawn yelling at the clouds. Gary's right. John's right. Coach Brady's right. Brenden and I get the luxury, the blessing to get to talk to so many great people every day like y'all. Again, we miss Matt. He's in our prayers and lost his mom. But, man, y'all get it. And what we're not seeing is people like y'all in these decision rooms where they make these decisions, and we're losing out because of it. But, guys, let's do it again next week. I'm going to say something about our sponsors. Coach John Brady, John Hartwell, College Sports Solutions. We're fixing the problems, and we'll do it again tomorrow morning, and thank y'all for joining us. Hey, if you got to get out and about today in the Mid-South, you need four-wheel drive, an F-150 like I drive, Landers Ford right there, LandersFordMemphis.com, Poplar and Houston Levy. Also, Mount Moriah and I-240, the iconic location, Landers. And by the way, Kent Ritchie, just recognized as one of the top 8 Ford dealers in the world for all of the great work that he does in the community here in the Mid-South and everywhere they are. And I'm going to tell you something, Kent Ritchie, what they do at Landers, you'll be a customer for life, and you'll tell everybody about him. Brad Bellamy, the GM, he'll be on the show tomorrow. But LandersFordMemphis.com, they deliver anywhere. Right down the street. You got to get, if you have sleep problems, aches and pains, Lights Out Gummies. The Lights Out Gummies, 25% off. Use promo code Flash Friday 2025. Friday 2025 at checkout. They've got them for energy, chill. They work on pain relief. They work on focus. And the energy ones work on appetite suppression. If you have trouble sleeping, the Lights Out Gummies are the best. HempForPros.com. HempForPros.com. It's a nearly decade-long collaborative with the NFL. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the Historic Square. I'm wearing the Glacier National Park shirt. I got this at Hewlett and Dunn. They've got Filson, Barber, over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. Great clothing, great people. Charles Hall, the staff, they're the best. And look, mytownroofing.com. Get your roof checked before it caves in, mytownroofing.com. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. For executive producer Brenden Martin, the best in the world, the best guy too, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.